What's up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of the CarGurus Editorial Team Podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Elliot Haney, video producer at CarGurus. To my left, I have Natalie Harrington, lead staff writer.
Hi.
That's Natalie. To her left, we have our California boy, our multi-titled chief editor-in-chief at Autolist.com, Dave Undercoffler.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. And last but not least, always last but not least, we have Matt Smith, our deputy U.S. editor.
Always last.
Sometimes
Never least.
You guys harmonized
Sometimes
really
least.
nicely.
You guys did. That was, as a
You guys are like
person,
in pitch.
I'm impressed.
Like you're
We do work together a
synchronized.
lot.
Oh my gosh. Fantastic. So we're a little tight on time. So this is going to be maybe a briefer episode for you guys if you just
Quicker
want to
conversation.
get in and out.
But a good one.
A good one. Always
Lots
a good
to
one.
digest here. Yeah.
less range than normal.
Oh, you brought up range.
What
We're
a
talking about electric
segue.
cars. Look at you.
Last but definitely
Range
not least right
anxiety.
now.
Yeah.
Matt brought up range because we were talking about electric cars today. We have an article on CarGurus.com conveniently titled "The Best Electric Cars of 2025." Guess what? It's 2025. We're talking electric cars today. So we are going to talk through this list today. You're going to get our opinions and our thoughts and our suggestions based on these cars.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start with the list.
You want to start with the list?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Should
What's
I-
on the
should I
list?
run down
yeah,
the
let's
list?
hear it.
All right. So we have written
In no particular order.
in no particular order. Correct.
It's in alphabetical order.
It's alphabetical. Okay, so it is in a particular order.
Says the English major. No, there's an order. All right.
It's not a ranked order. We have the BMW iX, not the BMW 9, right? The BMW
Correct.
iX.
It's not the
Has
Title
anyone
9
thought it was that?
BMW.
Yeah, okay.
I know. We have the Ford F-150 Lightning, the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and 6, two different listings, the Kia EV9, the Lucid Air, the Polestar 2, the Porsche, call back the Porsche, Taycan, the Rivian R1T, and the Tesla Model 3. That's a pretty good expansive
Yeah.
look at the
Good
electric
range.
car market
Yeah,
in
I like it.
2025.
Broad scope.
Something for everyone in there.
So those are the cars we're going to be talking about. Feel free to add one if it's not there. If you have one.
Well, these are new electric cars. So we're talking
Yeah.
about stuff that's new at your dealer right now.
Yeah.
Not the used. Yeah.
I guess we should first start out the conversation. Have any of us ever owned an EV? I have not.
Don't you have a Crickets? I think you have a Cricket sound.
Yeah,
just-
once an episode, we're going to use the sound
Yeah.
effects because they're cringy.
That was our one time.
I have not owned one. But being in California, everyone in my family who's in California owns one. Our next car will probably have a plug. I don't know if it'll be fully electric. But no, I haven't owned one myself. I'm a big fan of EVs.
Why is that? I feel like a lot
Why is what?
of EV ownership, a lot of that decision ties into lifestyle and how you drive and whatnot. But why specifically have you not
Just
played
timing.
like-
I mean, it's,
yeah, timing.
basically we haven't needed a new car recently or been able to afford one with two kids and trying to pay for a house in Southern California. So it's more of that than anything. But like I said, my wife's car is 8 years old at this point. It's a 2016 Acura RDX. Great car for two little kids in our family and our size. But when that, when that comes to trade that in,
Sure.
like I said, it'll at least be a plug-in hybrid, potentially a fully electric, and maybe something on this list.
And Natalie, I assume for you,
Natalie owns one of everything.
but
no EVs at
But
this
no
point in
EVs.
time.
well, there
Okay,
are
that's
no,
next.
unless you're going to go back to like the early 20th century. There aren't any EVs in Natalie's window of purchasing, from like 1970 to 1995.
That is a
No
classic
electric
car.
cars,
Although, didn't you speak on one of your reviews about the first electric car being
That's
like
right,
a
the Bailey.
1940s
I
something?
did.
Oh, no,
Way
they're the
earlier
way
than
earlier.
that.
Jay Leno.
1800s,
Late
80s?
1800s.
Jay
Okay.
Leno has some EV electric cars that are, the
Back
more
in the
you
day,
know.
it was steam, electric, or
Yeah.
gas.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
And gas just won out, huh?
there was a
That's a
major
whole story.
campaign.
Yeah, exactly. No, Natalie's completely right.
There was propaganda
Future
involved.
episode, Natalie
Yes.
teaches us about the history of EVs. That's fantastic.
Capitalism.
What could have been?
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, but my Mercedes is a 2000, so I do go
Whoa,
up to
she's
there.
this
Yeah,
century.
but a big part
Quarter
for me
century.
of the EV is I'm a renter, so I can't
sure.
just go
Yeah.
and install a charger at home. And
Yeah.
What would
Huge
happen?
hurdle for people.
Surprise.
So, all right, let
Got
me
an
hear
electrician
this.
coming.
For the Californian who, I live in Southern California, you would think the infrastructure is incredible and amazing. It's really not. It's there, but it doesn't always work. What's the infrastructure like in? So could you
You're talking
own? Let me
public.
ask you this: could you own an EV we're in the Boston area right now without owning your own home? Is it?
Yes.
I mean, you
you
could.
could do that.
A bit of a
yeah,
hassle.
It's a hassle.
You'd also
Even-
you'd lose the savings right? Because all
Yeah.
the public fast chargers are so expensive, way
Interesting.
more
Yeah.
expensive than filling up with gas.
And Matt does a really good job in his reviews of talking about the cost associated with EVs because, you plug it in home. And before I was a homeowner, bills were included and I didn't really think too much about actually paying for electricity. You're plugging in, you're paying for that. And Matt, you do a good job of acknowledging that different parts of the country have different rates for electricity.
Oh, yeah.
So
This is
talk
the
to
big
that a
difference
little bit.
between me and Dave. So here, cheap gas, expensive electricity. And residential electricity in Massachusetts, in Boston, where we are, it's like 30 cents a kilowatt hour, and you don't qualify for a reduced rate for like off-peak charging unless you're using a certain amount of electricity every month.
Oh, okay.
California,
It's like the reverse in California.
you guys have relatively I mean, it's 2/3 the cost of Massachusetts for your electricity.
Right.
But your gas is like, I don't know, like
It's
you have to marry a
$13 a
sheik
gallon.
to afford
Yeah.
a tank of gas.
No, the math definitely comes out different in California.
Yeah, for sure.
The real dream state is if you have like solar panels.
Right? I mean, one day that's my plan.
Yeah.
Is solar
And
panels
a power
and an
wall
EV
in the basement.
Like, that just feels so clean. All right, so let's get to the models here.
Yeah. So
I want to know, is there anything on this list people are like should not be on this list? What is not the best electric car?
I don't know. I don't know if
Or is there anything missing?
both of these are in fact, I would argue that the Ioniq 5 and the Ioniq 6, depending on which form factor works better for you, in like the mass market 2-row segment, I think they're two of the best. However, putting both of them on the list feels a little redundant. I might
totally
throw
disagree.
something.
No, I think they
I
could
would throw
both
like
be
a
there.
Prologue
let's
or something
throw
like that.
let's throw
on there.
fisticuffs
Okay,
here.
we'll get
You guys
there.
disagree?
Yeah.
Great point about the Prologue. Well, let's come back to that. The Ioniq, I think these can coexist on this list because they're such different vehicles. Like maybe powertrain wise, there's similarities.
Identical,
but like
different
hatch-
shapes.
Yeah, and I don't love the Ioniq 6 shape. I did that just doesn't. Every time I see one on the road,
like an
I'd
apple mouse.
I want it
I
to
kinda
work.
like it.
Yeah, like you're
Magic
squinting
mouse.
of like,
Yeah.
oh, this proportions should work, but they
It
they
has
don't.
like 4 different spoilers too.
Yeah, and it just the way the taillights sort of taper just doesn't. It looks
I
like there's
kinda
an
love it.
Infinity from the '90s that had kind of the similar taillights. The Ioniq 5 to me is a home run. Like
Yeah.
Ioniq
size,
5N.
they are bigger than they look. They are they're practical, they're efficient, they're cost effective. They're
You see 'em
reasonably
all over
fun
the
to drive.
place
You see
now.
them all over the place.
Yeah.
That's a standout on this list.
Yeah, I don't have sales
For
figures at my
execution.
fingertips, but you see 5s all over the place,
Yeah.
and I rarely see 6s.
True.
Rarely see the 6.
But that kind of goes to like the sedan versus crossover
Sure. Yeah.
dynamic that we
Oh,
have
yeah,
now.
great point.
But I mean, all of these are really good cars. EVs, newer technology, and frankly, like a lot of these are luxury cars. The ones that aren't and are not the two that we just talked about are also pretty big. The EV9 is pretty big. But you look at the prices on the Ioniq 6, the Ioniq 5, like 42 grand for a 6,500 mile Ioniq 5. That's a good deal. $35,000 for a almost brand new 2024 Ioniq 5 with 4,000 miles on it. Great deal. Like
Yeah, that car will last you.
That's a
forever.
fantastic deal.
people talk about EVs like, oh, they're very expensive. And like 35 grand is 35 grand.
Yeah.
But
But if the
compared to
average
a
price
comparatively,
is
yeah, you look at
50
the rest
grand,
of the market. I mean,
Yeah,
those
so
the two Hyundais are
The Ioniq
very
5
affordable.
is higher up in class than the 6, right?
Mm,
Or is the
They're
6 higher?
literally identical
No.
except for the shape.
I think
No,
the
the-
position the 6 is higher.
The base
It's-
prices are different.
Oh, yeah,
it's inherently
probably.
a 6.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which
So
by my math is bigger than 5.
I
Thank you, Dave.
Hang on, let me carry the 2.
English
6 is,
major.
6 is
Yeah.
bigger.
Dave, you are kind of our, maybe it's because you're the California guy.
Yeah.
You're kind of our resident EV expert. You
Oh, God.
you manage
My
the
apologies.
EV hub. So
Yeah.
I'd love for you to talk a little about the EV hub. But like, what are price trends of EVs looking like? Because I feel like they hit a peak and they kind of lost a little bit.
Sort of. It's
Where
new,
are they right
new,
now?
new versus used, right? If you want a new EV, I would act sooner rather than later, right? I think there's a lot of concerns that the Trump administration may change some of the incentives that you can get. So
It's been a real ping pong back and forth.
and consumers have responded. I think in Q1, new EV sales were great, and for General Motors and for Ford, they all had, because I think people are like, oh, I want an EV, I'm going to get it now while I still get rebates. The used, man, you can get crazy good deals on used EVs up and down the price range. So, I mean, as like a third car, if you have a teenager, you're looking for a car. I mean, an EV is a great cost-effective way to add one to your garage.
And speculating, but in terms of kind of the consistency of those prices, like we might see some movement on the new market because who knows what's happening with incentives. But on the used market, those incentives are basically priced in, right?
They're priced in, yeah.
So that's not likely to change. You might
No,
see some
they're
like
gonna be
supply and demand
cost-effective.
dynamics moving things, but
Yeah, used EVs will be cost effective for a long time.
You can get them so cheap.
You can get them so cheap.
Some of, I
Yeah.
mean, they're
Yeah.
not on this list, but some of them, like the Nissan Leaf,
Yeah, I was going to bring up that
basically
one.
free.
Yeah.
So we have an episode coming up where we're going to help me buy a second car, and I got questions along those lines.
All right.
And I do just want to wrap up. I have pricing. The IONIQ 6 starts at $37,850.
Okay.
The IONIQ 5 starts at $42,600.
Interesting.
Okay.
So the 5 is priced higher. I don't know if there's a trim difference. Like
being a
maybe the
lower
6
number.
has a lower trim that the 5 doesn't have.
Yeah, we should look at the
Range.
powertrains.
Sure.
Yeah.
But base prices, the 5, it's a bigger car, so it makes sense, I guess. So yeah, and then you get the 5N starting at 66.
5N is so
Who's
good.
driven the 5N? I think we've
I
all driven the
have.
5N.
I have
Matt!
not, I have not had the
Oh,
pleasure.
you got to get yourself into a 5N.
I know.
Are they selling any of those though? I mean, I know like the enthusiast community is like, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
But are they like, I haven't seen any on the road. They're wonderful, but
I don't think I've seen any either.
expensive.
They're
And
expensive and-
you pay a huge practicality price for that extra power.
In terms of range?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like $220 or something.
Yeah.
It's-
And the
So I don't know
interior
if
is not
many
as
consumers.
comfortable.
Yeah, so if it's like
but-
it's like a headline grabber, but I don't know if consumers are jumping on them.
But I love it.
It is
Award-winning
fun.
car.
Great.
So
Yeah.
cool.
Well, yeah,
But yeah, starting at 66, and that's for the base. I don't know how many. There's probably only one trim. It's just the N trim, but there's probably packages and such.
The thing I think is interesting
Oh, I
about
don't
it is like it's being lauded for imitating non-EVs,
Yeah.
basically.
Yes, yeah.
So until
It
we
can-
start
so for the
to
people, for those, the Hyundai N, it's the IONIQ 5N. It's the performance version of the IONIQ 5. It has multiple different modes that will simulate both shifting, right? Because EVs technically, a few of them have two different speeds, but simulate shifting, but also engine sounds.
Yeah.
And it creates this like really kind of cool experience because EVs are sort of penalized by people who are like, oh, they're sort of soulless. They don't have like sound. There's not feedback. And Hyundai worked really hard to get sort of a gas sort of performance visceral experience out of an EV, and it sort of blew everybody's mind because like they've largely succeeded.
Yeah.
So until we start to prize like EV characteristics, I just think it's kind of funny that that's the direction it's going. But Hyundai does do some of those EV characteristics really well, like really good regenerative braking and one pedal drive
for sure.
experience.
One
what were you going to
trim,
say?
$68,000, 221 miles of range.
The 5N.
Tough. Yeah. I mean, performance, terrific. I mean,
Tough
everything that I've read on this car, everything that you guys have told me,
I mean,
great
it's what,
performance
600?
car.
I mean, it's
but
like-
you are buying a performance car,
Yeah, you
not
are.
a practical
Well,
car.
I had it back to back with the Dodge Charger Daytona EV too, which
Interesting.
tries to do some of those things. And style, awesome. Sound when you turn it on, great. Does not do as good a job
Really?
of imitating.
Yeah,
shifts
the Dodge
or-
doesn't.
Yeah,
Okay.
even the sound for
I haven't
the
driven that one.
engine.
The only thing
and
I was going to say
stuff
about the 5N, which also not on this list, so that's okay. But the 5N, those sounds, they're cheesy. They are cheesy, but they are so fun. They're not convincing, but they're fun.
They're not convincing, but they're you appreciate them.
You
Yeah.
appreciate it, and
You should hear the Charger. That's
okay.
cheesy.
I have
Yeah.
good.
Don't-
Notably,
this
the
is
Charger.
great. We don't take ourselves.
Yeah, the Charger's not on this
seriously.
list.
The Charger not on the list.
I
Maybe
will
for
say-
26. We'll see.
The
It's
Polestar
so
2.
stylish.
The Polestar 2 is on this list. I'm not a fan. That's
Yeah,
why
Matt,
I haven't
you've
driven
been
that.
on a couple Polestar programs.
I drove the first Polestar, like first year of the Polestar 2, and it was a fun program because
That's
they
I think
had
the
us.
one I drove because I was
It
like,
was
eh.
in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and we drove from Santa Fe to the base of Ski Santa Fe, the ski area that's like way up in the mountains. And then we drove down, and basically on the drive down, the regenerative braking refilled the battery.
Sure.
which was
awesome.
a real.
bet you they planned it that
yeah,
way.
Oh, I'm sure they did. Really made sense for them too, because not a lot of Chargers in Santa
Yeah.
Fe.
Yeah.
I like the Polestar too. I think it drives nicely. I kind of feel like
yeah.
it's priced too high
Yeah.
for how hard it punches.
Well,
It's-
speaking on price,
it's one trim now is the other thing. Like there's no base version of it. You have to get the like 450 horsepower version. And
Is that just true in the US or
that's
everywhere?
true. Yeah, it's true here. I don't
Like the
know about
ID Buzz.
everywhere.
So-
Just getting the expensive
for,
one.
for people listening, our list articles like this, they do include what's it called? A little price ledge. What do we call them?
Listing shelf.
Listing shelf, not
Yeah.
a ledge, not a ledge. But we do
I
have.
did not know where that was going.
Yeah, Matt
haven't
came
either.
through, deputy editor.
Synonyms.
So we have two options that I see, and granted, you might see other things based on your location.
One of these looks good.
One of them, it's 9,000 miles. It's a 2024 dual range or long range dual motor all wheel drive for just over 30. That feels like a
Well, that's a used. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
that's,
used.
I just, to me, the Polestar,
That feels
it
like a
didn't do
decent
anything better than anything else And so there was like no inherent reason to get one. I
So
just like was
To
not.
dive into the listing, this is
Yeah.
one of the beautiful parts about CarGurus. They don't pull punches. We show you all the details.
That's
We
a
can
good
show
deal,
you
fair deal.
clean title, one previous owner, but it wasn't an accident. So
It was.
I mean,
Okay.
maybe that's driving some of that price there.
Okay.
It is
I mean,
labeled
that
great
does
deal.
$30,000 for basically a brand new long range Polestar with all wheel
Yeah, I mean,
drive.
That's the thing is the used market. Yeah, they're crazy good deals.
So Polestar is Volvo's like sub brand, correct?
Yeah, but then
Does it
Volvo's
sort
also
of-
making all electric cars
Sure.
too. So I
But
don't
does-
understand that.
Does Polestar?
it's all owned by Geely.
I've never
Right.
been in a Polestar. Does
It's
it
a Volvo.
feel luxurious? And
Ish.
Volvo's
Feels
kind
nice.
of that quiet
Yeah.
luxury anyway. But
Yeah, it's
does
like
it
a-
feel Volvo-ish?
It's like an Audi. Like
okay.
you know,
The touchscreen, that
luxury adjacent.
interface, very similar.
I hated it. The
I'm
first
not saying
generation
I'm a
was
huge
awful.
fan, but it's very similar to what you find in a Volvo.
They've
My-
improved it quite a bit
My
over
big
the years. So I give them
criticism
credit.
was, and maybe they've updated, but it was the backup camera. Was the rear visibility out of the Polestar 2 is abysmal because it's got that high deck,
Tiny
Yeah.
window.
tiny
Looks-
little window, and the backup camera. I mean, backup cameras are amazing. They've basically made rear visibility a much
But some of them
smaller
look like
issue
there's
than they once
Vaseline
were.
on the lens.
Well, it's
What was this one?
It must be pulled out of like a 2005 XC90. The resolution wasn't great.
Yeah.
And it only took up the top half of the screen, so it kind of looked
Yes,
weird.
that
but
always
you
dr-
see
yes, that's
quite a bit of the surround
the car.
of the car
Yeah,
in
right.
it. So
It's like that
not
GoPro
not
fisheye
great for
kinda-
parallel parking, but otherwise, I mean, I thought it drove pretty nicely. You're right. The tech is a little.
It's gotten better.
It's a
and
little
that's the nice thing
confusing.
is they
It's
can
gotten better.
update it easily on those screens. Another one I'm curious about. Have you guys driven the Lucid? Has anyone
No,
driven?
but
No, we have
I
a review
really
of
want
it.
to. Did Cliff do it?
Cliff did it. Yeah.
Because
Cliff
that's a
Attia.
fantastic car. If anyone is looking for, skip the Mercedes EQS. If you're looking for like a full size all electric car, the Lucid is, and the range on these things it's at least 400 on like the cheapest version.
Is the Lucid the one that was like made headlines for hitting 1,000 horsepower?
yeah,
that
I
the
believe
Lucid?
now there's
Yeah.
like
Now
a,
there's others, but it was
Sapphire.
like the first one that like hit that number, and that was like
the
its-
Sapphire is like 250 grand and what 1,500 horsepower now. Like there's
Yeah,
a
something
bonkers
like that.
version.
What's
So the-
250?
They're
You know?
delightful. Even the base model is
The
it's a
touring
great car.
trim is like one from the bottom. You have pure touring, grand touring, and then the Sapphire right up
Yeah.
top. And we've got a touring all-wheel drive 2024, only 7,000 miles. And granted, these are expensive cars.
expensive
This
cars.
is
These are over
like a
100
flagship
grand. Yeah.
level vehicle.
Yeah.
$63,669.
And they have such presence. I don't know if
Beautiful.
how often people see
Beautiful
them on the
cars.
road. They have such great
Every once in a while.
presence.
Yeah.
Spectacular looking.
Yeah, they're cool.
More than
So
the
that's-
IONIQ 6.
Yeah.
Matt,
Less polarizing.
was that Lucid Air in any accidents, or was that a clean?
That's a terrific question.
It does give us no
It
price
shows-
analysis.
It says
so-
no price.
There's probably
Probably
enough
not
of
enough
them.
data.
Yeah, that's pretty
I mean,
rare.
that's got to be it. Clean title,
Makes
0
sense.
accidents, 1 owner. I will say one of my early press car at a public fast charger experiences. I can't remember what car I was in, but there was a woman probably in her 60s who was pulled up in a Lucid Air. First time I'd ever seen one.
What color
Very
was it?
impressive. They had just gone on
Yeah.
sale. It was that gray color, actually the same
I
color
like
as
the
the one I'm
maroon.
looking at here. And this was this woman's first experience
Oh,
getting
no.
to an Electrify America charger that did not work. Let me tell you, there's nothing quite like buying a brand new $100,000 EV and getting to the charger. and
Right.
saying,
Well,
I got to find another one.
Electrify America doesn't have the greatest reputation sometimes.
So-
Porsche.
Porsche. Yeah.
Porsche. You can say both.
Well, Matt, what's the? How do we say Porsche?
Remember, it's
smiling
nuanced
E?
and completely fabricated.
You can
But
say
I
it any way
believe
you want. Is
say
the short
it,
answer.
It's Porsche.
Porsche.
Yeah. Okay.
With just like
You
a
whisper
just
the
like a
E.
little smile as you're coming off the shh.
This is
my head
early
against
in
the
our
microphone
podcasting
here.
careers. This is one of our callbacks. We got to build these. I love it. So the Porsche Taycan.
You
Just
nailed
pretend
it,
you're
pal.
Australian.
You nailed it.
Pretend you're Australian.
I remember the
She's
first time we
Taycan.
reviewed this car.
Taycan.
We had to look up how to say it because was it Taycan? Was it Taycan? I think it's Taycan.
I just pretend I'm Crocodile Dundee.
Love
It's a
it.
Taycan.
Got it. So it's not like not Taycan.
Have you driven one?
No, I haven't.
No.
I have not driven. Have you?
I have.
Okay,
They're
tell us about
delightful.
Tell us.
First of all, bigger inside than they look. They look quite small. So
That's
bigger inside
nice.
than they look. I mean, imagine it's everything you would expect it to be. I mean, it feels like it's a rear or a mid-engine, 4-door. I mean, I know it's not mid-engine, but it feels like it is a,
Where
it's got
is
all
the
the Porsche.
engine?
Oh, the motor.
The battery.
There's no engine.
So, but my point is, it maintains all of the Porsche characteristics and then takes away sort of, Porsche's, the sound is part of the experience. Their engines always sound lovely. So if you sort of take that out, but the driving experience they nailed it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
The engineering in that thing is incredible. Awesome. The steering feedback and just sort of the body roll and the control. I mean, it lives up to the Porsche crest. It's a fantastic car.
It looks beautiful.
It's an interesting.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't dislike it.
The
I don't know if it's
emergence of EVs, I feel like it's been a big challenge for these automakers that have a presence or a reputation. It's like, this is a brand new approach to cars.
It's like an existential shift for them.
It not the hardest thing to imagine a brand with a real rich pedigree diving into something new and not sticking the landing. So the fact that Porsche of all automakers stuck the landing.
And the engineering that went into it, like it's what, an 800 volt architecture. Mm-hmm. It can do unlimited 0 to 60 runs at like the launch control, which other brands I will not name cannot. It's just like they and then the range. What I love about Volkswagen, Audi, Porsche EVs is that when you are driving them, the range that it is telling you it has on the screen is to the 10th of a mile accurate.
Ooh.
In the current driving situation that you are. So if you're on the freeway, you're going to get the range it is showing you. Not all EVs do that. And I've been in particularly the Ford F-150 Lightning. I had that on the freeway, and my God, as you would expect, a huge truck, it's like driving a brick through the wind. You are watching the range decrease, and your anxiety is sort of going up at the same time. Yeah. Any Porsche, Audi, Volkswagen EV is a home run in terms of giving you exactly what you can expect.
And that helps.
And it helps with range anxiety. Yeah, it's a great feature. Yeah. So
if I'm in a car and it hits 40, I start to get nervous.
I have a question about that, actually. Do you guys think if range showed up the way gas does in like eighths or quarters instead of the way your phone battery does with like 73, 72, do you think that would be less anxiety inducing?
No, because I would just want the I'm like, well, what does that mean? What does that mean? Give me the mileage. I need the mileage.
Do you feel like that with gas?
No.
Yes. But that's because I almost always have the trip computer up.
Yeah.
And so
I always have
it always says,
it
says like, here's how many miles you've driven.
Yeah.
Here's what we think you have left.
Yeah.
And granted, I mean, I drive my personal car like 4,000 miles a year. Like I hardly ever put gas into it, which is a topic for another episode and probably problematic, but it's a Honda. It'll last forever.
I think if I couldn't see the 1% at a time,
I need the miles.
It's like digital things, my computer, my phone, my EV, if I had one, I expect it to be percentage based.
Yeah,
it's
I
just
get
like
more
what
stressed
I'm
out
used
if
to.
I don't see the percentage.
Yeah, it's like, okay, moving along. You mentioned the Ford F-150 Lightning.
Yeah.
There's also a Rivian R1T on here. So we have two pickup trucks.
Yeah.
Matt, you did not drive an R1T, but you drove an R1S, which I believe is the same architecture.
Yeah,
is that true?
The same.
Yeah. So talk to me about Rivian.
What's
Rivian
interesting with
doing?
Rivian, it feels like they've got a bajillion configurations because there's a dual motor, there's a tri-motor, there's a quad motor.
Yeah.
There are
that
also
one has like
different
2,000
size
horsepower,
batteries in them. And I had this revelation where I've always looked at EVs as like, we got to focus on efficiency and how many miles are you going on the kilowatt hours, et cetera. And Rivian will sell you a car with I can actually tell you, the R1T's largest battery size is...
It says here,
it's in here.
141.
141.5 kilowatt hours.
And that's big.
That's very large.
Very big. Yeah.
And with that, it'll go over 400 miles.
Sure.
And I think, well, the efficiency, it's still not that efficient. Just like the F-150, it's a brick going through the air. It's not very aerodynamic. But when you're spending $100,000 on an EV, you care more about how far it can go on the charge than you care about how much the charge costs.
Sure.
And I mean, I thought the R1S was a pretty compelling package. There are a few like tech forward, it's all in the touchscreen quirks that irritate me personally.
You're a little bit more old school
than
maybe a new EV buyer.
Won't bother a lot of people.
Yeah.
In terms of those two trucks, I mean, I like Rivian's style, but I feel like if I was buying a truck, the F-150 still feels to me like it's
a true truck.
The electric
that happens to be electric.
Truck first, electric is just how it's
You can
driven.
get a lease deal on one for like, what, $400 a month?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've gotten expensive too, though. I mean, lease deals are
they're still incentivized. You can get good lease deals. And I would recommend someone lease one rather than buy one, probably for any new EV.
What about like the Silverado, though? I mean,
so
bigger battery, bigger range.
Right.
Can you let's
it's
dive?
a different beast.
I want to dive in on why would you recommend the leasing over buying?
On an EV.
Yeah.
Just because I think, the analogy I make, it's like buying a desktop computer in the late 90s, where it's like if you wait, every 6 months, a faster one is going to come out and it's going to be cheaper. So the value and the residual value of these vehicles is sort of tanking quite quickly, and they are becoming more outdated faster than gas cars, right? Like the gas technology, between 5 years between models, the cars are largely the same, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like we are at a period now where price and battery technology and range is evolving quick enough that it's like, give me one of these EVs for 3 years. I don't want to have to be dealing with the residual value. I'll walk away and get into a new one. And I feel like it's going to be like that for a little while.
That's a really good point.
And another point, some of these EVs are eligible for your federal incentives or rebates if you lease, but not if you buy.
Yeah.
Right. So the Inflation Reduction Act, there's a loophole for leasing. So you save some money that way as well, when maybe you wouldn't have qualified if you buy it. So it's like, just get in it for 3 years.
The perfect opportunity to remind our audience that you can go to CarGurus.com and read our article about the best EV lease deals this month.
Look at that plug.
Every month.
Every month it's updated. Yeah.
I want to keep us moving because we're running a little short on time, but we haven't talked about the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
We haven't said Tesla. Tesla Model 3 is on this list. I said previously, not on a podcast, but I've only ever been in one Tesla. It was an Uber. It was falling apart.
But that was a previous sort of generation Model 3, right?
I have no idea when it was, but it
wasn't this new one.
No, my only experience in a Tesla was not good. So I don't have anything to say about Tesla. Have you guys been in Teslas? I assume you have. I think
I've been in Teslas. I haven't been in this updated version. For all intents and purposes, it sounds like they really nailed the updates on this new one.
Okay.
Now, I know this is sort of a fraught time for Tesla, so, take that for what it is. But if we're looking at just the car itself, vastly improved over, it's still sort of the same generation, but vastly improved in terms of build quality, ride quality, the amenities you get inside.
I mean, right here, we have a Model 3 long-range rear-wheel drive under 5,000 miles for $36K.
Yeah. I mean, they're
lower
deals.
than I expected it to be.
They're good deals. There are plenty of them. I mean, Tesla has sold so many of these cars.
Yeah.
And talking back on efficiency, I mean, none of the trucks are going to be overly efficient vehicles, but Tesla does a really good job of maximizing the range from their batteries.
But the range that they show you,
there's always a but.
Yes, the range that they show you is not as accurate as I was saying. Like they'll overestimate the range as you're driving.
I assume nothing is as accurate as it is in a Porsche.
Right. Yeah, the Germans have it down.
Yeah, there's a little bit of trickiness when you go to Tesla's pricing. They include the
that's
fuel
so
savings
annoying.
in the price of the car, which is
right.
wild.
You have to toggle over to like without the gas savings, but there's still it's a cost-effective choice. I think Tesla has some brand equity, although again that may be changing for some people. But like it still has that sort of more premiumness, right? Their strategy was decent.
Yeah. Okay, the last car we haven't talked about in our waning minutes.
Yeah.
The Kia EV9. Matt, you reviewed, like I said, the R1S. The EV9 is one of its closer competitors, although Kia, Rivian, different classes. Talk to me about the Kia, maybe versus the R1S as its other 3-row SUV competitor.
Realistically speaking, it's in totally different class than the R1S. It's
different price.
Quite a bit less expensive. It's like less than $20,000 more.
I think the Rivian
less
starts higher than the EV9 tops out.
Yes,
right?
But if you need 3 rows, the EV9 is kind of the best game in town.
It's kind of the only game in town.
If
you want all electric 3-row under $80,000,
we will have. There are going to be
They can get close to 80.
There are going to be some new
new
3-row.
Gotcha.
EVs coming.
Well, Hyundai has their
Hyundai's
version because Hyundai, for those who don't know, Hyundai and Kia are largely the same automaker. So there'll be a Hyundai version. But did you like it as a vehicle?
I thought it drove well.
Okay.
I like that you can get it with a pretty big, smaller battery that'll give you like 230 to 250 miles of range. That's fine for most people most of the time. But then there's the longer range, which is a little over 300. It's about a 100 kilowatt hour battery. I think it's a good looking car.
Yeah.
And
I'm still trying to decide if I like it.
Natalie, you reviewed for us the EV9. Matt, you did the EV9 versus Telluride, so gas versus electric. But you did the full single review of the EV9. So what was does your takeaway match Matt's opinions, feelings?
I would say so. I liked it. I think some people, especially when it first came out, might get sticker shock for it's a Kia, this idea, but it is also large and has a lot to offer.
Sure.
As a 3-row. It is one of few options, again, expanding market here. But one thing I really like about it is, and I know this is a little bit of a gimmick, but the ability to customize it a little bit post-purchase.
Yeah.
I just think that's really cool.
Tell us
the,
more.
the lighting
Expand.
schemes, for example, you do not have to commit to that right when you buy it. You can
The interior
download it.
lighting?
Exterior, the headlight patterns.
Oh, really? I don't think I knew that.
Yeah.
that like
After
digital
you buy,
array
that's so cool.
of
Okay.
lights.
Yeah. Kia's lighting. They
Interesting.
love or hate, but they go for it
Yeah.
with lighting.
They definitely
They
go for
it
it.
Go
with
for it.
style in general. I mean, and I think it looks great, and I like the
Today I
color
learned.
options.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay.
The one we had the paint though that didn't have the
Yes.
special lighting, so we had like the cool
The
matte.
frosted, yeah.
You had to get a specific kind of paint that allows that lighting to come through.
That's
right?
The matte paint, the lights, they just like don't show up
Right.
well enough, so
Right.
they didn't include the lighting on it,
Yeah, I
which
think-
is a shame because the matte paint looks great. I mean,
Looks cool.
everything named
Looks
matte
awesome.
looks great.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. 2 minutes left. 3
Yeah, we
minutes
gotta wrap
left. Everybody pick their one car they're taking home from this list,
Ooh, all right.
preferably from this list. Money is no
I want to hear
object.
Natalie's.
Yeah,
go
I want
ladies
Natalie to go
first.
first.
Well, can anyone
Put me on
tell
the
me
spot.
in like 3 seconds how good the BMW iX is? Because I am a BMW
Dave.
fan.
Yeah, it was
That's
good.
good.
It's quite different inside, so you have to sort of be ready to sort of be open to a very BMW new age kind of interior layout.
Okay.
But yeah,
Also, it
and
looks
I don't
like
love
that.
the UI of their.
New Age is kind of par
I
for
think
the
it's
course.
aged actually.
with
It's gotten.
EVs.
I've gotten used to it. I don't mind the way it looks.
You probably see more of them.
They're all
in
over LA.
California.
Yeah, they're all over.
So would you BMW person? Are you
I
taking
do
that
love
home?
BMW. I guess, yeah. Well, no, Lucid Air.
Oh, Lucid Air, Sapphire
okay.
250K, whatever.
All right.
Doesn't matter.
Artura S, Lucid Air.
Yeah.
Artura Spiders.
Matt or Dave, who's ready?
I'm ready. For me, this is easy. I love trucks, and I love the fact that you could have your cake and eat it too. You can have a truck, all the utility, functionality, and it's fully electric.
Yeah.
I would lease a Ford F-150 Lightning. Like get $400 a month.
Perfect.
Yeah, all day.
Over the
and that
Sierra or
frunk.
Silverado.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's like just sort of traditional truck, and then the frunk. There's huge amount of space.
Huge frunk.
and that keeps everything locked out of the way rather
Yeah.
than having in the bed. Yeah, it's.
I think it's a good looking. It looks like a truck, but it's also
There's
a
not
good
that
looking
guilt. Like
EV
there's not
truck.
that like it's like it looks like a truck, but
Yeah.
you still
a
have
great looking
efficiency.
car.
Yeah.
Matt, what do you got?
Thinking about it in terms of, commuter car, super efficient, low priced. I like how the Ioniq 6 looks. I think
Yeah.
it's pretty
I do too.
futuristic. It might not be my favorite car on the list, but it's also probably the cheapest car on this list. It does like 360 miles
Yeah.
with the
that
bigger
shape,
battery.
yeah.
It's not super powerful, but in terms of like getting around the city, charging
Yeah.
cheaply, really benefiting from what an EV can give you in terms of just like, cost-free
Yeah.
driving.
Yeah.
I'd go with the Ioniq 6.
Taking the
All right.
Ioniq 6, and
Plus I like the steering wheel button,
Yeah,
the lights.
you love it.
They're also about to update a refresh versions coming out the New York Auto Show. So
Oh,
fantastic.
there's a little teaser there. Stay tuned. We'll talk about that.
We
Matt,
already
you're going with
did
the 6?
later.
I'm going with the Ioniq 5. For many of
Yeah,
the same
great
reasons,
choice.
I just
Yeah.
think the 5 fits my
Yeah, yeah.
family's space needs a little bit better.
Agreed.
But I also think the 5 looks better. I like the boxier style with the pixel style lighting.
Yeah, the retro.
I think
It's
the
cool.
boxy style
Yeah.
works better with the
kinda.
lighting than the swoopy nature of the 6.
yeah.
To wrap it up, Dave, you are the EV Hub owner. Pitch
Yeah.
the EV Hub for
Oh,
our
I mean,
listeners.
EV Hub. Look, I think a lot of people listening right now, maybe you don't own an EV and you're considering
None of
one,
us.
and there's a lot of questions. It's a big paradigm
Ton of
shift.
questions.
All kinds of questions you may have. Go to our EV guide. It will sort of there's many different articles sort of breaking down any of the questions people have to sort of make this easier. I think I am a big proponent of EVs. I think they are easier to live with than many people may assume. Again, it depends on sort of also you're living, if you live in a single family
Yeah.
house, that makes it easier. But any question you have about this, we've got a guide to answer it. Very straightforward.
Yeah.
It's not car talk. It's just like, hey, we're here for you.
And remember, you can always ask questions down in the YouTube channel. If
Yeah.
you're listening to this audio only, I suggest going over to YouTube. Check out our wonderful faces and ask us a question there.
where we review nearly everything on this list. too.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
to wrap it up, we've reviewed in video form and written form almost every car we've talked about today. So head over to CarGurus to check those out. And remember, CarGurus is the place for your largest selection of new and used cars, expert reviews, price trends, and your best chance to find a great deal. Thank you guys for your time.
Thanks, folks.
See you
Thank
next
you.
week.
All right.